I hope you're all well. We are going to talk today about that post. That post that has been going round on LinkedIn. That post that, for me, is where do we start with this post? I'm talking about the crying CEO post. The crying CEO post. Now, if you haven't seen this, stay with me here. I am going to try to be as objective as I can about this post. So if you haven't seen this, this is a rising trend that's happening on LinkedIn. There's tons of people doing these, and they are very effective pieces of content. So you'll see my screen, hopefully. Say hello if you're joining this morning. Hi, Ross. Hi, David. Nice to see you. Right, I am going to try and talk you through something that's happening on social media, particularly LinkedIn at the moment. And I'm going to put it all under a category, which is sad fishing. Good morning, Maxine. Now, I'm going to be as fair as I can to this guy. I'm going to be as fair as I can, but also I'm going to tell you what I think. So this post came out yesterday, and it's from a CEO of a social media marketing company. I don't know the guy. I don't know his business. So I'm just caveating. I'm making statements off what I see. So I've got no problem. Morning, Mike. Morning, Leanne. I've got no problem with us championing the fact that men can cry. I've got no problem with that. I've got no problem with people talking about mental health struggles. I've got no problem with people sharing personal stuff on LinkedIn. Laura, yeah, it's right. This is not just him doing this, by the way. Tons of people are doing this. And I've been loath to talk about it because, where do we start? There's a lot of women doing posts where they are choosing particular fashion sense, shall we say. They are being attacked for choosing that fashion sense and then posting about people telling them how they should and shouldn't dress. And whilst let me just, I might make his mistake here. I think you can do what you want on social media. You can do whatever you like. It's your social media. But you have to accept, whether it's right or not, that if you use social media in particular ways, it will invoke a particular reaction. By that, I mean, there are some unpleasant people with unpleasant opinions on social media. You can't have the limelight and try and get the big limelight without some of those people. Yeah, it's just the nature of the beast. It's like, the Kardashians complaining that they make so much, Kardashians living, their best lives, really rich and making loads of money, and then complain that the paparazzi won't leave them alone. You can't have that because they've pumped their image out, and that's the negative content. Well, you can complain, but the problem is sometimes you get the negative as well with the positive. So I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying you got to just accept that. Yeah. If I became, I am sure, actually, let's just pick Gary Vee. Gary Vee is so public across social media, right? He gets the benefit of fandom. He gets the mass benefit. I will get to this post in a minute. Yes, Maxine, yeah. Tightrope walking. Yeah, I'm being really careful here. It's really scary doing this because if I step too far, I could end up in hot water myself. Gary Vee, he's everywhere on social media, churning out stuff. But if you look in the comments, he has some horrible comments. It doesn't mean the horrible comments are right, but if you're going to put yourself out there, You need to have a tough, thick skin to say that comes with it. That's just the dark side of it. That's life. If we went back 20 years and you were a film star, you'd have the dark side of it too, right? So that said, I'm just saying clearly to anybody, any gender, do what you want on social media, but be aware and toughen up for that dark side that shouldn't happen, but it does. So you kind of have to suck it up. Right now, let's come to this post. Genuine and honest posts never go viral. No, they don't. You've got to think about social media is a newspaper, right? It's a newspaper. And the biggest headlines, the most drama, the most drastic stuff gets attention. So if I can talk about that in another one. What I don't want to do is kind of miss talking about this. So the first thing about this, I don't know this guy and I don't know his intention, but that's true of any post. I put up a post, people don't know me, they don't know my intention. People don't know my intentions right now, right? So first of all, I don't know him. I don't know his business. All I know is what I've seen. So the first thing is he's the CEO of a social media company. So this post that he's put is him crying, talking about how sad he is that he's had to let people go. I've had to let people go. It's horrible, right? It's awful. It's unpleasant. But unfortunately, if you're the CEO of the company and you let somebody go, in the eyes of the world, you are the bad guy. You are the bad person. That's always the case, even if it's difficult circumstances. And I've had to let people go in difficult circumstances. But the reality is, you're the big cheese. You're in charge. You have to take it on the chin. You are the bad person. It doesn't mean you had bad intent, but it's just the way society views it. You've let somebody go. They're faced with the shitty end of the stick, right? That's the reality. They've got to find a new job. Their income's uncertain. They're worried. So when you see a CEO of a social media company saying how sad he is that he's let people go, number one, it's going to grip people the wrong way. It's going to upset people. It's going to rub people up the wrong way, right? That's just the reality, right? It's going to rub people up the wrong way. Why? Because he's not the one who has to find a new job. Now, don't know his intent, but just think about this. It's going to rub people up the wrong way. A CEO crying about how difficult it was to let people go. Give me a break. Come on. Actually, it's more difficult for the employees. They've got uncertainty about how they're going to pay their bills, how they're going to get another job, all of that stuff. So let's just have some common sense here, right? He was on the wrong side of this, right? So that's the first thing. But what makes it worse for me is this guy runs a social media business. So he should have some sense to go, we need to be really careful if we're going to put this message out. So it leaves you with the impression, he tells people he loves his employees. Well, I care about my employees. I don't want anything to happen to them. I want them to do well. I want them to have a, good life and all that stuff. But you're telling people you're firing people and then saying how much you love them and then putting a picture of yourself on crying. Now, I've never taken a picture of maybe I'm just an emotional idiot or whatever. I've never taken a picture of myself crying, right? So here's the problem. When you start to put this post together, it looks planned, right? Yeah, Trevor, yeah. It looks planned. Why? Because I was crying. Let my employees go. And in that moment, I've decided, you know what? I'm going to hold that tear and take that picture. So that's the first bit that unsettles me. Now, that could be poor judgment. It's all rings of poor judgment. But the taking the picture whilst you're crying, yeah, tells me you've planned this post, which means it's not something spontaneous you've just put out and you've misjudged. It's something you've deliberately put out. Now, so there's an insensitivity to there's a lack of judgment in terms of gauging the market, number one. Well, I'm going to come to something else, and this is my theory, so it could be totally wrong. There's an insensitivity to how the market views employer-employee. Yeah, he's the bad guy. He's let people go. I'm not saying he's literally a bad guy. Shit happens, right? We have tough times. We have to let people go. It's not nice. Nobody wants to do it. But in reality, he's still got his job. He's still got his financial security. Those people now have a new journey. So really, it's like, it's not about you, mate. It's really not about you. So that's the first thing. If anything, I'd be embarrassed that I'd had to let people go. I'd be ashamed that I'd had to do it to somebody. And I know internally when we've had to do it, we have had quiet moments, but not using it like that. So he's the bad guy. He's deliberately took a picture of himself crying. Now, I recently saw another post, and it was a screenshot of somebody absolutely breaking down, telling people about they'd lost their business. Now, I don't know that one either, but I do worry that in a quest for visibility, we resort to ever dramatic attention-seeking methods. That's not good business. Yeah, it might be good to game the algorithm and boost your profile and all that stuff, but in the short term, it will give you that lift. But in the long term, it's actually more damaging. And what I want to talk to you about for a minute is where I think this stuff's going. See, I think a lot of this, I mean, I'll just show you here, by the way. This post has gone absolutely ballistic, right? But, you know, you see likes, and the vast majority of the comments are basically, okay, fine, you've had to let people go. Why did you not borrow money, or why did you not take the hit? Why are you telling people how bad you feel? So it's overwhelmingly been negative. But here's the thing that I think why this is happening. So there's people, and I don't know his intent, but I know this massively backfired and it's massively poor judgment. But here's what I think why this is happening. I don't think this is about, and I'm talking generally, what we call sad fishing now, where you post a sad story or you deliberately provoke people to get a post to blow up. I don't think this was about his mental health. I thought this was an angle. That's how I perceived it. You don't take a picture of yourself crying unless you plan to do something with it. And he obviously planned I could turn this into a post. I don't know whether he planned it to go as negative as he did. But here's what I think is the reason why people are doing this. Because this won't help his social media company. In fact, most of the comments are saying the same. This behavior, the way he's done this post, number one, shows his poor judgment in terms of as a CEO, but also it shows his poor judgment as the leader of a social media company. So I don't think this is going to help his company, albeit I think for the most part, people will forget about this in a couple of weeks. But I think, and there's some women doing other types of this post that I think they know will provoke reactions. And this is what it's about, really. These posts are about provoking people, and not for a commercial gain in the classic sense, not for the cause, because I don't think it's about a cause either. I think it's being masked under a cause, but I don't think it's about championing men should be able to cry and challenging that stigma. I don't think that's what this post's intent is. I don't think some of the posts that are out there are there because people are choosing to provoke. That's what I'm saying. However they do it, and yes, there's some horrible people on social media who go too far in critiquing, criticizing, attacking, whatever. But I think that people are choosing to provoke. Why? If it has no commercial gain, I saw somebody doing some rather strange, provocative posts around personal branding a few weeks back. And I was like, this is not going to help your business. But it's not there to help their actual business. They're looking for a different business. What they're trying to do is get themselves out of the people on social media who are using it for business, or they're using it for their own benefit directly. And they're trying to escape into the higher level of social media, the kind of influencer level of social media. So I think some of this is actually aimed at getting famous. I think that's what this is about. The provocation is to get famous. Scandals, you look at it in the newspapers, people telling their stories, people doing, it's to get a bigger crowd for something else. Because this guy, if this guy blew up and ended up on national, television media and stuff, talking about his story and all this kind of stuff, he's not going back to the same social media business. So I think this is not just about, oh, I want to game the algorithm so I can get more traction for my business. I think this is about getting bigger and wider attention and using this as a provocative story to latch on to people like Huffington Post and mainstream television media, and to get that level of notoriety. And in fact, one of my contacts does this for a living, and she does it for a living. She comes up with ridiculous stories to basically game the national media to get them to publish ridiculous stories, like she married her dog, she's all sorts of stuff, and she does this for a living. And she has a lot of fun doing it, but they're ridiculous stories she gets the media to print. And I think in our 24-hour news, everybody needs something to talk about. I think what's behind all of this, and it is attention seeking, let's be honest, deliberately provoking people to get attention, deliberately saying controversial stuff, not because you believe it, not because that's the true, genuine reason. It's because you just want to get attention. And for me, I've never contemplated, maybe I'm just an unemotional, I was going to swear, but unemotional person. I've never thought of, I know, I'll take a picture of myself crying because that'll be a great social media post. I wouldn't dream of sharing. Maybe this is a stigma, but it's like, I've got to be a professional. If I want to be in business, I've got to be a professional. That means, there's I have to show strength. I have to be responsible. Why? Because I've chosen to be in business. But for me, what this smacks of is I'm deliberately trying to get attention, not for the benefit of my business, because this is not about his business. It's also not about the cause, because somebody rightly pointed out, very little was talked about the people who'd lost their jobs. It was all about how he felt. So I think this is a trend we are seeing where people are trying to do this or choosing to do this, whether it's inadvertent or whether it's actual, premeditated. They're actually doing it to get wider, bigger attention. They're trying to get beyond the crowd they've got. It is. And some people have commented on this post and said, this looks like narcissism to me. This looks like it's got deep rooted issues. Now, if it is, this guy needs help and we should champion in that help. But he's now gone on to champion the employees after people have attacked him to try and recover ground, I think. But I just think I see this trend. I see this going on. And I'm like, what are we doing? Really, what are we doing? And it seems to be about, I want to be famous. I want to be famous. And people will do anything to be famous. And likes and comments are great because they help you get seen and they help you build trust and they help. But my God, I mean, really, any stuff that you do should be helping you advance your cause. And I don't think this guy had a hideous plan, but I think society, the way we work now with social media, it does leave us with this. How can we get ahead? How can we get the advantage? How can we get more attention? And this is just another way of trying to massively attention seek. And will it pay off? Actually, I think it will. I think it will, because somebody's going to pick up on this story, write an article or do a little news piece about it. And he's going to do a few interviews about it. And he'll probably write a little book about it. And he'll probably then turn it into some kind of crisis social media product. I can see that coming probably. But there is this trend at the moment of what we call sad fishing, or provocative content. And it's not provocative because somebody actually wants to champion that cause. It's provocative because there's somebody wants attention. And we all want attention. We all want attention for our business. I'm posting now, I'm doing this, but we want it for the right reasons. We want it because we want to do business, provide services, or add value to somebody's world. And this post doesn't do any of those things. It's very self-centered. And yes, we should talk about ourselves, but not at the expense of somebody else who's just lost their job and their income, and then tell you about how sad you feel. Maybe you could have wrote a post about them and said, I've had to let 3 people go. I'm really embarrassed about it. I'm ashamed about it. I felt awful inside. If anybody has any jobs going, we're going to try and help them. It could have been something like that, but it just didn't do that. It just, I mean, you look at the comments, and there are, to be fair, there are some good comments, but this actually damages business owners, and I'm just gonna kind of add one more thing in here, right? In the times that we're here right now, yeah, we're in an environment where, particularly in the media, business owners are, and you know, I'm talking 94.5% of the business owners are CEOs, founders, managing directors in this world. 95% of them are not mega rich fat cats. Are they better off than the average person? Pretty much most of them are. And there's a risk to reward ratio for that. But we're in an environment whereby, because of the excesses of things like, you know, we see Starbucks and all of these big corporates making billions in profits, and people struggling. We're in a time where employers are seen as bad people. Yeah. And I don't mean generally, but I mean every story you read in the news, pretty much all of them are bad employers. It's actually really difficult being an employer, to be fair. It is difficult. There's a lot of risk. There's a lot of responsibility. It's terrifying when you realize you're responsible for all of these people's well-being, lives, everything. But we are in that space where employer bad and employee good. And we know that that's not really how it is. It's not. Vast majority of employers are good people. They don't try and beat their employees up and screw them over. That's not how it works. But we are in that environment where that's the perception. Does this help? Does this help? Or does this paint more business owners as selfish, greedy, self-obsessed people? It does. And, you know, when people talk about CEOs and business owners, everybody thinks of jet set lifestyle, the big ones. Yet, you know, I just want to wrap this up because I know I'm talking to a lot of people. And there is the perception, and this is going to be tough, actually, to bring it full circle to the beginning of his post. There are times ahead which are going to be very difficult, and businesses are going to be laying people off. And the problem is, and I don't want to get political on this, is businesses have just come out of one of the worst experiences they've ever had. The total uncertainty, in some cases reliant on subsidies to stay alive. They took on debts to get through it. And that's the pandemic. And now going into, in the UK at least, a predicted 15-month recession. So a lot of businesses are going into a recession. And I don't know why nobody's talking about this. A lot of businesses are going into a recession in a weak point anyway, because their debt levels are higher. They've not fully recovered from the last 2 and a bit years. And they got recession as well. This is a prickly time if you're going to be a business owner, small business owner, very prickly. And that guy inadvertently raised the point of having to let people go, but nobody seems to be talking about this in this way, that actually we all need to work together here to get through this. I know that's a cheesy statement, especially after the last 2 years, but business owners are not in a great place. A lot of them are not in a great place after 2.5 years of whatever's gone on, what have you's gone on. You got all that going on and another recession going on, and then this stuff as well, which doesn't help people get a good image of business people who take their responsibility seriously. And it looks like childish, attention-seeking behavior. Yeah, Maxine. Yeah. Now, he has had posts from members of staff who seem to be happy with what he's done. You know, we don't know what's really gone on. We don't know his intentions. We can only see how it looks, and how it looks is pretty god awful. But I guess what I'm saying is, don't do this shit. Please don't do this shit. Why? Will you get a lot of attention? Yes, you will. Will you get some negative, horrendous backlash from people who should know better and control what they say? Yes, that's the rough with the smooth. But this isn't right. This isn't right. This is games. This is people playing games. This is theater. This is theater. And so if I was him, I would have took this down and gone, do you know what? I made a massive error here. And I would have posted, do you know what? I tried to exploit people's misery for my own gain. And I'm ashamed of myself because it took people on LinkedIn to show me. Yeah. I am sure I will make some stupid errors. We all will, by the way. And this is his. We will make some stupid errors. It's not fatal for him, right? I'll probably do it. So I won't do that, but I'll probably inadvertently make a mistake. But you have to own your freaking mistakes. This guy, like, he said, oh, I'm sorry how it's being perceived. That's not the same as saying, do you know what? That was really badly judged. Don't do this crap. Please don't do this crap. Why? It's not going to help your business. It's the shallowest form of marketing because it's so superficial. It's basically like tabloid newspapers dramatizing something to get people to buy the paper. That's what this is. And the problem with that is grown-up people who are serious, people who have a more balanced view on life, who don't get baited by sensationalism, look at that and go, what an idiot. Now, there will be a crowd of people who will come along with this, but are they going to buy from him? Probably not. Are the negative people, are they going to impact what he does? Yes. Will this be over in a couple of weeks? Yeah, it will. Unless he gets inspiration to do something again. And this is always the case, by the way. Usually when people find success like this, because of the dopamine rush of getting all this traction, even when it's negative, getting 3 million views on a post, you want to do it again. And he'll have to find something else sensational to do it again and again and again. And that's how you end up with people like, what's that woman? She's got some really horrendous views on immigration, and Katie Hopkins. Yeah. Katie Hopkins has made a career doing this very same thing. Different mediums, different way approach, but it's still, I'm going to polarize people and divide people and say provocative things to get attention. And if I do it enough, a group of people will give me a platform. That's what this is about. A group of people will give me a platform. Now, Katie Hopkins does not make money from the ordinary public. She makes money from very right-wing, very extreme people paying to hear her speak and getting interviewed by extreme people who have other extreme views sometimes. Now, that's what he's doing. It's just a different way of doing it. It's just a different way of doing it. And hopefully I will not succumb to it. But yeah, you have to get attention, but this is not the right way to get attention. It doesn't serve its purpose, i.e. helping his business. It helps his new business, which could be whatever it is. Right, I'm going to go. Thank you so much for joining. If we're not connected, please do drop me a connection request or follow. If I've offended you, sorry, but you know, I say what I see. And in this scenario, it looks like attention seeking. Like I said, I don't know his background. I don't know his intentions. I don't know anything about him, anything at all. I'm just telling you what I see. And I see a lot of this stuff going down on LinkedIn. And it is, I think, the lowest form of attention seeking. It undermines the credibility of his business. It undermines the credibility of him. It actually mocks a real cause, which is actually some of the stigmas around what is a man and what is masculinity and you know, and mental health. I think it mocks that, and I think it does a disservice to the people he was talking about. But that's my opinion, right? Anyway, have a good rest of the day, and you know what? I'm sure there's more of this to come. I'll see you later.